Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, Vincent LaRusso and I are going to be talking about that final Kiss show that took place 1 year ago at this point. We'll look back on that, give you our thoughts a year later, as well as taking a look forward into 2025, what we're hoping the band will do. We'll also discuss Paul's comments about doing a one-off show and how we felt disoriented in the last year. Alrighty, lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I have with me, straight from his Thanksgiving feast, my buddy, Fiast, my comrade, my bloody. How you doing, my friend?
Excellent. I'm doing good today. I got my cup of Java.
Nice.
Got Java the Hutt.
Java the Hutt. And you enjoyed your Thanksgiving feast, as we were talking about before we started recording?
Yeah, and I hope everybody else had a nice Thanksgiving.
Yes, indeed. You know, for me, Thanksgiving is one of my least favorite holidays of the year. I'll get roasted now for this, but I'm not a huge turkey fan. In fact, my wife, since we have some people who don't eat meat in the family, my wife usually cooks some manigot, or as the non-Italians would say, manicotti, right? And that's probably my favorite part of the feast is the manigot.
Well, I don't think you're, in the minority with the turkey thing. I think a lot of people aren't really huge. I'm not a huge fan of turkey either. I actually look forward to my mom's stuffing. That's the thing. There was just a little sosugi in it, So that sausage. If anybody wants to know.
Anybody who doesn't know, that's true. Nobody's going to know what sosugi is, but you and I.
Pretzel sosugi,
Right. Oh, I've never had stuffing with sosugi. That sounds good.
Oh yeah, it's really good. That's the flavor. That's been my favorite for years. If I just had a bowl of the stuffing, I'd be happier than a pig in you know what. So
happier than a pig in sosugi.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I don't like the stuffing. I don't like the cranberries. I could take or leave the
band or the food.
Both actually. I hate to say that. I'm not a big fan of the cranberries either. The band, but but another Thanksgiving bites the dust, I guess we can say. And now we're on to the Merry
Holiday. You plan on stocking any Christmas trees this year?
Yeah, I'm going to stock Christmas trees. I'm going to quit my day job and just start stocking Christmas trees for a living.
You should stock them in your living room.
I should, just nobody has a clue why I was saying this at all.
Yeah.
When I was probably from the time I was 16 to the time I graduated college, I worked in a store where it was like a seasonal store, and Vin always made fun of me every year when the holiday season was approaching, and I had to stock the Christmas trees.
Yes.
So yeah, for the longest time, I guess I was. That's the song I do like.
Yeah.
But I guess I was kind of like tainted on the holidays because I was stocking Christmas trees and putting together Christmas trees starting in July. So by the time December rolled along and my parents were like, "Hey, you want to put up the Christmas tree?" I was like, "No Christmas tree, going out."
Yeah.
But
I can understand that.
Yeah. But now we have a new thing during this holiday season, and that is the anniversary of the final Kiss shows. Right? So it's kind of crazy to think about to me that it's been a year at this point since those final shows. Does it feel like a year to you?
It feels like the year went by fast, if that's how I can answer that question. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy to me.
To
me, it went very fast, But
it did.
When you look back at that whole weekend? Not even just the concert right now. Let's put the concert to the side. But when you look back on that weekend, everything that was going on in the city, where you can get mugged at any time. Again, a reference nobody understands. But when you look back at everything that was going on in the city at that time, do you think that I'll say it was a good send off to for Kiss as we look at it now a year later from that?
Well, I think the thing that's still highly controversial is the whole Avatar thing at the end. I know I initially didn't have a problem where, the whole, I think the first, I think did we do two podcasts on
Yeah, we
that? I'm
did
trying to
one
remember
like
now.
the next morning, then we did one a week
Yeah.
later, and both of them you were like, yeah, I don't have a problem with the whole way it ended with the avatars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought it was kind of cool in a sense that the whole stage went up in smoke and then they were just gone. At
Hmm.
first, I thought it was like just a cool thing, but in hindsight now, and just thinking and having a marinade, and then sometimes you do get influenced by other people's opinions, just because you hear their side, like, oh, you know what, that kind of makes sense. I think still the biggest issue I have is not recognizing the KISS alumni as best they should. I think they had an opportunity. I know Bruce Kulick has been very vocal about this, and for someone like Bruce, who's always been totally in the
You've been
KISS
a
camp.
company guy. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even he felt. I think, this wasn't right, even for himself. I mean, I could understand why they have someone like Desmond Child there, and Paul had some certain guests, but someone like Bruce. I mean, how do you have a guy who's in the band for 10 plus years? Help contribute. Came in when they had an issue with Mark St. John. And not have him be invited or recognized. That just seems very, very cold. And that kind of left a bad taste in my mind because we know that Bruce is a good guy and he's a good KISS soldier and he's always promoted the band and any of the activity that he was a part of, and he's done some really great things with you know um, I remember on his website he would talk about the record and
Yes.
whatever it was. It went in great detail, what us KISS fans love to hear about, and so that kind of changed my mind on a lot of things. I think after the fact.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to me because if you think about it, so I asked you, putting the concerts to the side, do you think that whole weekend was good? And you started instantly talking about the concerts, and I'm not surprised because I think just to your point, that's what everybody just keeps thinking of and gravitating towards is that disrespect, if you will, that was shown towards Bruce and maybe some of the prior members as well. And as much as I feel like that whole, like I look back on that weekend, I'm like, man, that was a lot of fun. There was so many people coming from around the world in the city. They had the pop-up store. They had all these different things going on. I think that I'll say Doc and the band, but I'm sure Doc had a lot to do with that. Did really good with getting like a lot of things going on in the city, but yet we keep going back to the thing that should have been the easiest, right? And that is just
Right.
recognize some of those guys. And no matter how much I say, hey, put the shows to the side. What do you think of that weekend? Instantly, the thought is, yeah, but the show was not the way it should be, right? And to me, that's
Yeah.
the biggest shame of it all. Is like it really was a great weekend. I really think Kiss did a great job that weekend, kind of quote unquote taking over the cities. They had the taxis with the Kiss stuff on it, the Empire
Mm-hmm.
State Building, different
Mm-hmm.
stores, a pizzeria. But we just keep going back to that show at the end and saying they blew the easiest part of the weekend. They blew it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shame.
I agree. And you experienced more of that whole. I mean, I just went to the show, but I know you went to the
Yeah.
city. Did you go once or twice?
I went through, well, I was in the city 3 days. I went during, like the day before the shows. I
Okay.
went then both of the shows and I was in the city early for both of the shows. So I'll say I experienced, I was over at the Empire State Building when that was being lit up. I went to the different pop-up stores that were there, the main one and then some of these other, little smaller ones. I went to the pizzeria.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Kiss taxis. I mean, I'll say I pretty much did it all that weekend. And I look back on that, I'm like, damn, that was a lot of fun. Constantly running into people like every 5, 10 minutes. Hey, how you doing? Let's take a picture. That was all just so much fun. And then the
Yeah.
final show happened. It's just like, damn, what a shame that is.
Yeah. And we talked about it, I believe, at the time. About the set list itself, and I think we said, listen, they're probably not going to go off script. This is a very much a planned to the T to the moment kind of thing, and as much as we would like, that last show maybe having some other alternate songs or some deep cuts. I mean, we knew in our heart of hearts that wasn't going to happen.
Right.
We even thought like, well, if Bruce comes up, what does he come up and play? Does he do? Do they do like a Tears of Falling? Do they do?
Right.
But especially if they're going to do something, which I don't know if they have plans, or Pop House at this point would have plans, like to release I almost said DVD, but do they do DVDs anymore
Not
of the
really.
final show, whatever? They're going to want it to be as perfect as possible,
Right.
to sell that. I get all that stuff, but at the very least, for the amount of time we've invested ourselves in the band, obviously the core two who are still there, and then all the other members, we would have liked, I think, as Kiss fans, for there to be more recognition of the alumni,
Agreed.
So,
Well,
even if they didn't invite Bruce there, just to mention his name,
of course, just to mention.
Paul could have gone 30 seconds off script and say, I just want to make sure before this night is ended that I recognize some of the guys who couldn't be here tonight, or maybe couldn't. Maybe that's not the word. Well, some couldn't because they're not alive, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to name, Eric Carr, Mark St. John, Vinnie Vincent, Bruce Kulick, and at least that there's some sort of acknowledgement,
Agreed.
So it doesn't take much. I mean, I noticed recently there was, and excuse me if I don't remember his last name. I know his first name because his name is Vinny. There was a guy who was one of the original, I guess, Kiss Army guys. I think it was Kiss Army. He was a
Vinny
Kiss fan,
Mm-hmm.
Vinny Gonzalez, and I saw Ace Frehley had recognized him, and Peter Criss did on his website.
Yep.
I didn't see anything from Gene and Paul. I'm not saying that they did or they didn't. I don't know,
Right.
but it's important for us Kiss fans, especially the people who've been there, and supported this band, that these people get recognized. I just think you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
Agreed.
you haven't earned what you earned if it wasn't for the fans.
They've said that for decades, and then they kind of, I think, fell off the tracks a little bit during that last show. But you were just mentioning like recording it and releasing that final show. I know that they've said that they are putting together, I saw this online, like I think it was a 5-part documentary on the final 50 shows or the final 20 shows, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact details, but a 5-part documentary on the End of the Road tour. Does something like that get you excited? Are you interested in that, or does that seem overkill to you? What are your thoughts on a 5-part documentary of End of the Road?
I mean, in 5 parts, if they're 5 hours each, I'd be like, all right, that's way too long. So I don't know, but
right, exactly.
But no, I mean, listen, I'd certainly be interested in there being or watching some sort of documentary on that End of the Road tour, which we knew was, I mean, because of COVID, it was more than what they originally planned, which was around a 2-year time frame originally. If you want to look at it,
it was going to end in like 2021, July 21, I think it was.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly would be interested in watching something like that, and if it's done well, like they did with the A&E,
yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which was done very well, So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, look, I know I see a lot of people online say that, hey, we want something from the 70s, or even some people say from the 80s, and I get that. We all love that stuff, right? That's some of my favorite time periods of Kiss, period. But I think that an End of the Road documentary will kind of be interesting. Because there was a lot that, like you just said, there was a lot that went on with that. And I'd love to see some of the behind the scenes stuff. I'd love to hear some more conversation about David Lee Roth joining the tour for a little bit. And like you said, them having to pause it because of COVID. I think there's a good story to tell. Not sure that 5 parts is necessary. I guess time will tell on that. But like you said, if it's only 45 minutes apart, then it might feel like, hey, that was a good story. So I'm kind of excited. I hope that actually does see the light of day. I'm assuming it will. I'm assuming it'll be during 2025 that we'll get that. But
yeah,
to me, that'll kind of be exciting after that whole long tour. And I went to 12 shows, I think, on the tour. It'll be exciting to me to see a documentary on that.
Well, I think it also leads to a discussion of like, what's our appetite like a year later? Like, are we in like Kiss withdrawal mode right now, or how do you feel? I mean, I'm racing that as I'm kind of flipping the switch here as the moderator. Or I mean, how do you feel about it?
That is exactly where I was going to go. And I know recently I saw Stanley say that he felt disoriented the last year. And obviously, I'm not in the band. I might have attended dozens and dozens of concerts, but I haven't felt disoriented. I haven't felt like I'm missing something. I know so many of my Kiss fan friends online are like, oh, I miss this. I miss this. I miss seeing some of the people I know and seeing them at some of these Kiss events. but I don't miss the concerts. And I thought I would.
Mm.
I thought after a year, I'd be like, oh man, I wish I could see that Kiss was going to tour next summer or whatever. But I guess for me, especially having seen them a dozen and maybe even more times on the end of the road, knowing that the band was, especially Paul, taking steps back vocally and just wasn't able to do it. I said it then, and I still feel it a year later. I feel satisfied. I don't feel a need to have another Kiss tour or anything like that. I'm good. I had 40, almost 50 years with the band. I feel good from a live concert setting. I'm curious, what do you think?
Yeah, I think part of it is, we really just prepared ourselves for this,
Yeah,
and once you prepare yourself for the finality of something, it's like, and you're okay with it, I think that, and it sits well with you. I kind of feel the same way for some of the same reasons you said also. And I think what I have done, and fortunately, because I can, the not to be a broken record, because I play in a Kiss cover band, I'm keeping the music alive within myself, still listening to the song, performing the song. So it's not like I buried Kiss, and listening to their music. I'm still very active and listening to the music. I'm performing the music and celebrating the music. There was just that word celebrating. Um, and and I mean, we even spoke recently about, Gene Simmons, because Gene kind of didn't waste much time to get out there. I think it
no.
was maybe, what was it, like February of this year that
It
he
was
kind of
sometime
announced?
early. Yeah, sometime early in the year. I
Yeah,
don't remember if it was February, March, but it was early in the year. He got
yeah,
right out there, like you said.
yeah. And you and I have spoken, like, what's the interest level of going to see Gene, and we were both like, I think, well, I mean, if he's gonna go out and do, Ace of Spades and, House of Pain and
Right.
some of these covers, and some of the, the usual stuff that we've heard them do for so many years. I'm not saying no, but again, we like to have that opportunity not to. It's like kind of the Ace Frehley thing. I don't want to go see Ace Frehley to hear Love Gun in Detroit Rock City when he's got a catalog of other of his own originals. Or I shouldn't say originals. Well, yeah, because they do sometimes do covers, so as part of
Hmm.
the origin stuff. But
True.
you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
I want to hear a show of Ace Frehley songs and Ace Frehley singing the songs. Yeah, if one of the guys sing a song here and there, I forgot what song it was. Was it something from his solo album that he didn't sing? You remember that from his first solo
Yeah.
album?
When we saw Ace do the full 78 show, there was a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
songs. I think it was not Snowblind, but Ozone. I think he didn't
Ozone.
sing.
Yeah,
And maybe
yeah,
I'm in need of love. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but
yeah,
and
yeah.
Wiped Out. I think
I wiped
Matt
out.
Starr sang Wiped Out. So
Yeah,
that to me is 9 songs on the album. One's an instrumental. Ace isn't singing two or three of them. That's a travesty to me.
yeah. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
So I think if we can still get our appetite fulfilled by a Gene or even a Paul. I don't know what Paul's going to do. I mean, it's interesting. We haven't heard anything about Soul Station. He
Yeah,
seemed to be,
nothing.
maybe he just realized for whatever reason what the industry told him, or it just wasn't getting the kind of attention he thought, or you
Well, I
know.
remember about maybe a year and a half ago, he posted something on Twitter, I think it was, that it made it sound like they were recording a second album.
Yeah, I
And
mean, listen,
and this is
he was
before
out.
Kiss wound down. So to your point, I was very surprised that we didn't hear anything at all about Soul Station this year. Not that I'm sitting at home waiting for it, but I was just surprised that there wasn't anything on Soul Station at all.
Well, listen, I know you. We feel different about this because
Mhm.
I have more of an affinity for that music. It was a very well done record. The videos that he did, I thoroughly enjoyed. So I would, love to see something. Listen, if Paul Stanley said he was coming out with a country album, a real country album, not what's they call country today, and it's rock with guys
Mhm.
talking about whiskey, a Ford pickup truck, and a case of beer in the back. I would be into that. I
Mhm.
still want to see the guys putting out something, whether it's new material or tribute to whatever artist they love, or just still going out there and performing music. I'm not trying to say I want to shut these guys out of of history,
Right.
but to see them go out, and I think Paul, or they asked Paul, he would be open for something else, and it's like, here we go, it's like,
Mhm.
here, is it the final show? Or is it not the final show? You know what I mean? It's
Right,
just
right.
like, I don't know. It's just like let it. To me, it's just like let it rest and let it be for what it is. I'm not going to say if they went out and played. Oh my god, I spent that money. Now I feel chipped. Because you go into it with the built-in expectation that they're not coming. They might come back.
Right.
It's like
Right.
I mean, look how many artists have done the final tour. My favorite one is still the Who at the final tour in '82.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know if there's any worse than that one.
Exactly. There's look, like you said, every band says they're doing a final tour and then they come back and they play 20 more tours after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lots to unbox of what you just said, right? So first off, let's go back to the Gene Simmons stuff, right? So it's kind of funny because Ryan, who was in Gene's band at the time and now he's in Ace's band, posted something on Facebook a few days ago, like reminiscent about, playing with Gene a couple of years ago. And I commented on his post, and I truly feel this. To me, I look back at those Gene Simmons solo shows from before the end of the road tour, some of the best Kiss related shows or Kiss shows I've ever seen in my life. To me, those shows were so fun. They were loose. You could see the band was having fun. I loved the atmosphere of the shows. The set list changed at every single show, a couple of songs in, a couple of songs out. That to me was so much fun. And I would go to that again in a heartbeat. But you said before, and you're spot on, I think, if Gene is doing Ace of Spades, House of Pain, or just fill in the blank, any of the cover tunes really, and the rest of the set list is standards or static, I kind of have no interest in that. I hate to say that. I think if knowing what I saw of the Gene Simmons set list in 2024, supposedly he's coming to America in 25. If that's the set list, I hate to say it, I'm probably going to pass.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even without Kiss being around now, it's like, like you said, I kind of wrapped my mind around that Kiss was over and I'm okay with that. If Gene's doing something exciting, or if Ace is changing his set list and doing something exciting, I'm all in. But to go and see these guys do Cold Gin, Rock and Roll All Night, Love Gun, it's like, enough is enough,
Yeah.
or as Paul
I
Stanley
agree.
once sang, I've had enough.
Mm-hmm.
You
Out of the
know?
cold into the fire.
Yes, exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, and you mentioned before also Paul Stanley mentioning potentially doing a one-off show.
Mm.
So I forget when it was, February, March, when I had Doc on my podcast this year. And he said that there was going to be another Kiss cruise next year. So if there is a cruise like that, and Kiss says, yes, we're going to perform, we're going to do it without makeup or whatever, and we're going to do some deep cuts, I ask myself, do I have interest? Well, first off, for me, it does not take away the last show.
Mm.
To me, the last show with makeup, Madison Square Garden, full production, I don't think they're ever going to do anything like that again. If
Mm-hmm.
they're playing on a cruise for an hour, no makeup, deep cuts, do I go? Go back and forth in my mind on that. I go back and forth. Would you, if you didn't go, would you feel like you're missing out, or do you feel like I'm good? I'm really good.
I think I'm still in the camp of like I'm good. Um, I think just because I just kind of closed the chapter in my mind.
Right.
It's just like it was great to be there that night, see the final show, even with some of the things I think both had problems with. Would I be upset that they do? Would I be like, oh my God, they ripped me off the money? No, I mean, if they were doing a non-makeup thing and they would, I'm kind of okay with that, you
Right.
know?
Right. Now, what if they had said, hey, we're going to play Los Angeles one night, full makeup, full
I would
production? Do you
I
feel
would have a problem with
cheated?
that. I
Yeah,
wouldn't feel
me
cheated.
too.
I would just have a problem with that because it's just like you sold us a bill of goods that was non-authentic.
Hmm.
Like a lot of other bands have done.
Right.
I
Now, if you
mean,
go back and you look at some of the press, especially the last year before that final show, they kept saying, well, this is our final tour. I do believe when it came to that last show, they billed it as the last show ever, right? So
I
I
think
know
so.
there's a
Yep.
lot of fans go back and forth. Well, if you listen to the press, they said it was their final tour, and they did. I can't dispute that. But as we got close to those Madison Square Garden shows, they did, especially Gene was like, yeah, this is it. I'm not putting the makeup back on. This is it. We're not playing anymore. This is the final show. He was selling instruments as like the final stage played bass
Mm,
guitar ever. Um, it won't change the impression I had of that weekend and those shows that night, but it will feel cheap a little bit on their parts. I mean, to go out and do a
Mm-hmm.
one-off type thing. I don't, especially with makeup like that. If you're doing something on a cruise without makeup or whatever, and it's a very loose thing, I don't think that changes anything. But if you went out and did a full production show, for me, that would change. It doesn't change
Absolutely.
my enjoyment of that weekend, but it changes the way I feel about them doing something else.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So,
Absolutely.
I know I said on one of the other episodes, I think when we were doing our look back on Asylum, that I've spoke with Pop House now a handful of times actually. And I have to say this, I feel like Pop House really has Kiss fans' best interests at heart, right? And they seem to be looking forward to next year, and it doesn't seem to only be about the avatars with them. They really seem to want to do right by the Kiss fans. And I bring up the avatars, and it's now a year later since they introduced that concept to us. A year later, do you feel like you have more interest, less interest, the same interest? Are you just completely indifferent to it? What are your thoughts a year later on the whole Avatar thing?
That's a good question. Um, I'd say to myself, would I go into an arena with non-human beings on a stage, imagery, and hearing Kiss music being performed? Would that be something that really truly interests me? Right off the bat, I say no. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I just would I be interested to see how good the technology is and how realistic? And because I saw some of the ABBA stuff, which looks incredible. I think we're talking about here what's the price point of something like this. You know what I mean? If it was a price point that I thought was reasonable and it would be a fun and they made it really really visually interesting, and the show itself and the set list was interesting, and I think maybe I might dip my toe in the pool. But I
Right.
would say my instinct right off the bat is,
Well,
not
right
so
off the
much.
bat,
You
and
know,
this is probably something that you can't tour around the country and put in Madison Square Garden and the Forum, etc. I think there's special technology that's needed, so it's going to have to be in a special arena, be it in Vegas or London, like ABBA
mm,
was, right?
yeah,
So you
yeah.
probably would have to travel to this right off the top.
Well, then that's probably you're probably not gonna see. I know. I have a problem getting to this chair to the couch this morning. So you know what I mean. I don't know if I'm, without another cup of this, but
There you
yeah,
go.
I don't know, man. I just listen. Let me throw on, 79. Was it Largo or something like that, a concert, and watch that. And I think I still get more enjoyment out of something like that. I recently watched that. We did a show, and it was Dynasty themed, the show we did, and then they played the concert from that, and I'm just like, this doesn't ever get old.
Right.
Even if I put on the Kiss Animalize Uncensored video, I was like, yeah, this never gets old. Or if I watch
Mhm.
Kiss Exposed, or if I watch Kiss Confidential, or whatever, I mean, those are the things still to this day for me personally, that I think prioritize as number one.
Right.
But like I said, I might have some interest.
I'll say this. I know I've heard Stanley kind of say something along the lines of like it was going to not be like a recreation of 77 concert or something like that. So my thought went to, well, and they're never going to do this because this album did not sell. But what if they did something around like the Elder, told the whole story, had the characters performing the songs from the album, and I use air quotes around performing, obviously, and telling and fleshing out that story. Could that be something interesting? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I would
Hmm.
travel to it though. That's the thing. I think I'd have to, I said this to somebody else. The first year Kiss announced a cruise, I was like, oh man, that sounds cheesy. And then they did it so right to me. They did it really well. And I was like, wow, I missed out. And then I went on the next 11 cruises after that, or whatever it was, 10 or 11 cruises. If the Avatar thing gets released, I think I'd probably first take a wait and see approach. What is this like? And if I feel like, hey, this is done really well, I'm missing out. Yeah, would I travel to do it? Yeah, maybe, maybe. I don't think out of the gate, my first impression would be, oh, I got to go run and see that.
Hmm.
Again, it kind of goes back to I wouldn't go run and see Gene Solo or Ace Solo right now because I need something new, something exciting. I kind of last year, December 2nd, I made peace with the fact that that was going to be the end of my live Kiss journey. And unless it's something that's really going to blow me away, I don't feel a need to change that. That's just the way I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. No,
So,
I
then,
feel the same way.
so then saying that, if you had a look to 2025, is there anything you'd hope to see from Kiss? Obviously, we spoke about potentially a
Hmm.
one-off show and our thoughts on that. Is there anything else you're like, hey, I wish the band or Pop House in this particular case would do this?
I think we're always interested in things that we haven't heard or seen before. I mean, that's always going to be the top of my list. It's like whether it's unreleased material, concerts, soundboard stuff. I mean, I just saw something yesterday on a Facebook. I think post by Bruce. It was a cassette from I guess a
Mm-hmm.
soundboard from '92. It's ironic because the handwriting looked like yours. I'm like, did you have
No,
that tape?
really? No.
Look like your handwriting. I'm like,
Oh,
that
that's pretty
handwriting
funny.
eerily looks like yours. But
That's really funny.
we know the stuff is out there in the universe, and so those are the type of things that get me excited. It's like the live from the soundboard stuff was some cool product that they were putting out, a great idea. More of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's just hearing and seeing stuff that we haven't seen before. We don't know the totality of the amount of stuff
Mhm.
that's out there, but we know there's stuff out there. We know that there was those whatever it was that last year or the year before, where all of a sudden Kiss stuff was being thrown all over YouTube,
Yeah.
and we were seeing all this stuff that maybe we have seen it before, but lower quality, but now we've seen it in better quality and stuff that we hadn't seen before. So we know that there's content that's out there. I think that's the stuff that I'm most interested in seeing and hearing.
Yeah. Now, look, I agree. I remember a few years back, Paul was going through, I guess, some of his stuff. I think right before he was moving, and he posted a picture on Twitter of a reel he had from like 71 or 72 with like 10 or 12 songs that he recorded at that time. And I think like Love Her All I Can was on it, and a bunch of songs we haven't heard. And I'm like, now that's what I would be. I would get so freaking
Yeah.
excited if something like that came out. And it could be part of a box set or something like that, you know. I know the rumor was last year there was going to be a box set for the first album, and then with the sale to Pop House, that got put on hold. I would love to see more of that type of stuff. And then quite honestly, that's what I've said to Pop House when I've spoke with them is that it's about the music to me. I would love to see or hear things that I've never heard before. That's where the
Yeah.
excitement comes to me. And it kind of brings this whole thing together. Again, to go see Gene perform Cold Gin for the 100th time, been there, done that. Give me a release with songs on it that I've never heard before. You know, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I went back and I found, and I think I sent it to you. I think you had never seen it before, but on one of the cruises, Paul Stanley performed a
Mm.
song called "So Long," right? And it was just acoustic, and he said he wrote it around the same time as "Hard Luck Woman." And just listen to it again. And you know, his voice is obviously not what it was in the 70s, but I'm like, I'm trying to envision hearing a recording of this from 76, which he must have, because he remembered he had every lyric to the song. He remembered the song. He had to have find a recording of this. And I think he even said at the time, hey, this will be released one day. That to me gets exciting, you know, like, hey, yeah,
Hmm.
let's hear that. Like, I probably played that song 10 times that week just to kind of like, it was something new, it was something exciting. You know, even though I was there when he performed it in 2016, I hadn't listened to it in a long time. Like that to me gets me excited. And I
Mm.
hope we see more of that type of stuff in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And listen, we know that they have because I've seen a little video or some pictures. Um, they have a warehouse filled with stuff. He's
Right.
got guitars. I've seen him take out acoustics that he used on this, or his original Iceman guitar, and like do a series on like some of the stuff the guitars used, some of that, and tell us stories about some of that stuff. I mean, that for me, of course, is something I'm really interested. The history behind Kiss and the instruments used, or some of the memorabilia or rare stuff that they've kept in their warehouse. I mean, even that alone would be a fun thing for them to
I
talk about,
I
not somebody
never thought
else.
about that, but I know Keith LaRue sometimes posts pictures of Paul in the warehouse, but
Yeah,
that would be a friggin' amazing documentary. If you know, spending an afternoon with Paul in the warehouse going through that stuff and telling stories. I actually that might be more exciting than any documentary they put out so far. And they could take out stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s today and hearing some of
yeah.
that stuff. I actually love, love, love that idea.
Yeah, yeah, because we know it exists.
Yes.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that Paul has some of these instruments and that they've kept things. It's one thing it seems that both Gene and Paul are really great at is like keeping stuff. You know what I mean, and
Yes.
and and, and retaining the history of the band.
Yep.
I know at this point what's in their control to do those type of things. Like it'd be interesting, like if they wanted to go into that archive or that warehouse and talk about the guitar or whatever. Do they have to get like clearance from Pop House? Is like that's something because it's a Kiss related. I don't know. I don't know what you call it. Video. I don't know what do you even
call
call
it a
that. Like,
documentary.
yeah. But even if it's not a documentary, even if they did it like as a an Instagram video or something like that,
Right.
where they talk, like, do they have to get clearance for this stuff? I have no idea. I
That's a
wouldn't
good
think
question.
so.
That's a
I wouldn't
good
think so.
question. I don't know. I guess it depends if they sold that stuff to Pop House also, right? So if Pop House bought quote unquote everything from Paul and Gene, yeah, they
I
might
don't
not
think
own the guitar, but do they own the
that's what I'm
rights to,
saying. Yeah, I don't think that the like, all right, that whole warehouse of stuff that's their
right.
own personal, stuff is theirs. But who knows? We
Yeah,
don't
that's
know that.
that's a
So
great question. I never thought about
yeah,
that one. Who knows? But
yeah,
to me, that would be an exciting documentary. And you could do it in parts, like you said. You could do like little 10-minute things, 15-minute things.
yeah,
That would be, release one of those every month during 2025. And I'd be freaking excited. I'd be like, all right, when is this going to be released? That would be really
mm-hmm,
exciting to me. I love that idea.
yeah, yeah,
Pop House, if you're watching this video as we're talking about this, that's a great idea. You should
yeah,
contact me. I'll give you some more ideas about that.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see to me what happens in 25. I think now that Pop Houses will have owned Kiss now for close to a year, my impression is that things will probably start to happen, but it could end up not being the case. Just knowing that Doc said there might be a cruise in 25, I have a feeling we're going to see a little bit of a pickup in some Kiss related stuff. What that means, time will tell. But I think now that we're a year away from those the final concerts, I think it feels like it's time that some things are going to pick up. But
Mm,
I'm okay with them doing a one-off show. I'm hoping they release these things that like what we're talking about. But I will be honest, if they did like a 10 show run or something like that, I'd feel like that's not cool. Yeah, I wouldn't
yeah,
change my opinion of those final shows, but it's just it's not necessary. You guys are in your 70s. And I'm not suggesting that there's Paul said a one-off, so I don't think that there'll ever be a group of shows, but it'll be interesting to see what 2025 brings.
yeah. Listen, we know one thing: Pop House is going to want to make good on their investment, no
Of
matter
course.
what. So
Great
they're
point.
going to be anxious. They're going to be anxious to put out stuff, and I think we're going to enjoy a lot of the stuff they're going to do. And if they're involving Kiss fans and into what we want and stuff like that, that's a great start. I'm very
Right.
pleased to hear that because people in the boardroom sometimes don't have a pulse to what we want.
Right.
They're just looking at it as a business sense.
Right.
Sense doesn't always make sense. You know what I mean?
That
So
very, very true. Very true.
yeah. So
And yeah, and I've said that Pop House contacted me. I know they've contacted a few others as well because I've seen some of them posted online or make reference of it. So to me, to your point, I think that's a great thing that they're taking multiple Kiss fan perspectives. It doesn't mean that, hey, Mike Brunn said to do this, they're going to do it. Who the hell is Mike Brunn, right? It doesn't matter. But the fact that they're asking for a handful of fans for input tells me, and it's why I say I think their heart's in the right place, because if it was only about dollars and cents, they wouldn't ask any Kiss fans. They
mm-hmm,
would just say,
mm-hmm,
all right, if we do X, how much money are we going to make on it? And there would be a couple of people with
right.
suits and ties sitting in a boardroom making a financial decision, right? So the fact that they're speaking to a handful of Kiss fans tells me that they want to get this right. They want to do right by the fans. And I'm kind of excited to see what's in store in 2025 and beyond. Look, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised, but I also know that there's no way every Kiss fan is ever going to be happy, right? Because I don't
Impossible.
care who, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons could put out, their entire archive of stuff that they've never released before, and somebody will complain, well, the sound quality isn't good. That's just the way it is, right? So Kiss fans are never going to be 100% happy, but I think I'm kind of excited to see what's in store.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is why I kind of bring this full circle. I don't look back and say, gee, I'm disappointed with those final shows. Yeah, there's things we didn't like or whatever, but I feel like, all right, that's the past. And now let's see what the future brings. And I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. Although every
Absolutely.
time I see Bruce do an interview and he brings up not being there, it kind of gets under my skin. Not that Bruce is saying it, but that it didn't happen.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
God
yeah.
damn, God damn. But yeah, I'll say this: that night in that building, we had fun, right? We were together, we had fun. I wasn't sitting there saying, "This is a horrible time." They didn't mention Bruce Kulick, they didn't mention Ace Frehley. Did I recognize they didn't? Of course, but it didn't take away the enjoyment I had that night.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you could think of, my friend, either about the final show or where we think the band could go in 2025?
Um, no, I think that's it.
All righty. Well, then we look forward to hearing and seeing people's comments. It's been a year. Do you miss Kiss? Do you feel like Paul said, disoriented without concerts, without anything new going on? What do you think of Paul Stanley saying they might do a one-off show next year? Would that cheapen the final shows to you? If it was on a cruise, would you go? Would you not go? What would you like to see Pop House do 2025 and beyond? Are you interested in the Gene Simmons solo shows? You're going to go see Ace Frehley. There's a
Mm,
lot to think about, and
hmm
I look forward to seeing all the opinions. As we always say, all opinions welcome. No right or wrong. Just because we have opinions doesn't mean it's the Bible, So I'm
hmm
curious to see what
hmm
people say. I think there's going to be a mixed bag of responses, actually.
I do. I do. I agree.
And it'll be interesting when we get together in December of 2025 to see. It's now been 2 years since that final show. What's happened? Because
Mhm.
who knows? We might end up being surprised with things that we're not even thinking about right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because there's probably people a lot smarter than you and I who do this for a living that are saying, hey, we should do this, we should do that. So it'll be interesting
All
to
right.
see. All righty. Well, I think on that note, we are a wrap. And since we're talking about Kiss, we could end this one with a
Yeah.
all
Oh, I gotta do it
right.
like that. See, I still have a problem with my hands.
You're getting better at it.
Yeah,
You're
it's
getting
just,
better.
it's the whole Spock thing that I still tell you I can't do.
In 2025, that could be a goal of yours.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
You don't think so? I think you can work on it. I think you'll get
Yeah,
there.
I'll try. I'll
All
try.
righty. Well, thanks for joining as always, my friend. And we look forward to seeing and reading all the comments. Thanks everybody for watching. Till next time. Later.
Later.
All righty. There you have it. Crazy to think it's been 1 year since the final Kiss show, right? Have your thoughts or opinions changed about that show in the past year? What do you think of Paul's comments recently that he'd be open to doing a one-off show? If the band did something like that, would it change your opinion of that final show? Also, what do you think is in store for Kiss in 2025? We look forward to reading and seeing all of your comments. All opinions are certainly welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.